All right. Let's see here. All right, I do believe we might be live. What's happening, everyone? Thanks for joining me on another Sunday morning live stream. If anyone in the chat can let me know if you can hear me and that the audio is coming through clean, we'll go ahead and get started today. All right. Okay, today we're going to be messing around with the Dirtywave mate tracker. I've had a little bit of technical hiccups this morning, so I'm a little bit flustered as we get started. Sound fine. All right, fantastic, everyone. What we're going to do is I'm going to play for you guys just a couple of examples of some things that I've been working on inside of the mate, and then we're going to decide what we're going to work on today. So hopefully going to be a collaborative session today, so get your collabing shoes on in the chat. If you're catching this on the replay, thanks for joining me. Okay, let's go ahead and check out some of these projects that I've got going currently in the tracker. We've got an overhead shot here, and I've also got a shot that includes like a close-up of the screen so you can see a little bit more about what is going on inside the tracker today. So this is a groove that I've been working on the last couple days, and it's probably going to get loud in 3, 2, 1. Seems a little quiet, actually. Oh, I know why. Yep. Let's bring this volume up. All right. Hey, what's happening? Big John UK. What's happening? Toballusion. What's happening? Wall? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Unfortunately, looks like I'm already having technical difficulties again. The screen here that is supposed to show what I'm doing on the tracker, that was the technical difficulty that I was having just before the stream. Got me red-faced and sweating all of a sudden, is that it's no longer showing what I'm doing on the screen inside of this app here, unfortunately. Well, I guess that doesn't really show anything either. So what I'm going to try to do is I'd really like us to be able to use this during the stream. Okay, I'm connected in the action. Maybe if I reset it on this side. I'm just going to try to figure this out, you guys. Okay, it seems like we are sort of connected again here. Maybe I just need to have that app up in a different position. Fantastic, because I really want you guys to be able to see a little bit more clearly what we're doing on the screen. Looks like we're back in. Fantastic. All right. So that was just a little groove that I've been working on. We might work on that groove today, or we might start something from scratch. What I'm going to do is play a few more of the grooves that I've got started this week. And let me load one of those up here. This one is a completely different vibe. Where is that? There it is. All right. And let's see, we can go back. Cool. This one's more of like an aggressive techno sounding vibe, and it's going to get loud in 3, 2, 1. So that's another one that I've been working on. We might work on that one today. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be working on today. So definitely get your collabing shoes on in the chat. We're going to go ahead and load one more at this time. And let's see, what was that one called again? Right. There we go. This is one that I was working on yesterday. Just kind of a beat so far, but I think it has a lot of potential, and we could work on this one today as well. Just a really basic kind of drum beat sort of groove with this one so far. So these are 3 projects that I've put together, just basically like the very sort of like first idea, something that we could build off of any of those projects today. Or we could start something completely fresh, completely new from scratch today as well. There's also another option, which is that I've not set up, but rather I've programmed already like a pattern inside of the AKAI Force here, which we could start with today by sampling these sounds into the mate. That's definitely something that I want to do during the stream, is sample audio into the mate, because we haven't done that on a live stream yet, and being a sampler, it does that very well. But this is that groove inside of the Force. This is just like a Rhodes groove and a bass line. So just coupled to like 2 tracks only. Something that we could, start a project with from scratch maybe. Are we still live? Can you guys hear that okay? Coming out over the stream, I hope. So this already has like a really even Rhodes sound and a really even bass underneath it. We could sample these out and work with these inside of the mate. I think whatever we work with today, we're going to be sampling something out of the AKAI Force into the tracker. I've got it set up so we can use the Electronisounds acid box filter if we want to filter anything out as well today. So basically, what the first thing that I guess I'm asking for in the chat is whether we should maybe start building on something that I've got existing already, maybe give us a little bit of a leg up on the project today, or whether if we should maybe start something completely from scratch, just completely from zero. What do you guys think? Should we start with something existing, or should we start completely from scratch? Just let me know what you think in the chat, and we'll see how we're going to move forward today. You can't beat a good EP, yeah, right? This groove here with the EP and the bass is at about 116 BPM. Kind of like that sort of, I like those funky beats, So we could sample this out, or we could, start with one of the projects that I've already, played out of the mate, or we could start completely from scratch today. I really want to try to make this a collaborative session between the chat. If you guys are hopefully in the mood for that today. Doesn't seem to be a lot of action in the chat so far. So I'm going to maybe, let's see here. This would do nicely. Yeah, okay, let's just go ahead and get going and sample this out. We can always shift gears, during the stream if we want to. Let's see here. Before we get started, I'd like to mention just a couple of things that I've learned about the mate, because I'm really, really gelling with this box so far. Not really box, but this device or whatever we're going to call it. I experimented this week with loading single cycle waveforms into the sampler, and we can absolutely do that. And you just put those into like a forward looping mode, and then you've got, playable melodic sounds that you can create and save as presets. Being able to import single cycle waveforms is like super awesome for getting lots of different, kind of tones and whatnot. So that was really good to discover that we can do. Something else that we can do, I've now explored using it completely as a MIDI sequencer, using no like of the inbuilt samplers or instruments, but just using the MIDI out tracks. I use that with my Eurorack system and the Polyend Poly 2 CV MIDI to CV converter module to hook that up. And I released a video yesterday on that of the tracker just being a MIDI sequencer only. So not only, in that same idea, I then tried yesterday to hook it up to the MC707 and use the sequencer inside of the mate to program a drum beat in the MC707. And then there's actually a way that we can use the sampler in the mate to even, like, while that is playing the MIDI from the drum machine, we can record that back into the mate. So even using it as a sequencer for external gear and then being able to record that in at the same time as we're MIDI sequencing it. That was a really awesome discovery that I finally figured out late last night as well. This is a really, really powerful device for like a handheld device, like pretty much the most powerful, like smallest device that I've got in this room at this point, I think. Hey, what's happening? Audible Video. Thanks for saying hi. All right. What let's do then is let's go ahead and start sampling in what we've got here in the Force. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute the bass so that we can just hear the Rhodes, right? Cool. And then let's see, we're going to switch cameras over to the tracker, and hopefully we're still connected to that app that's showing you the screen. All right, fantastic. What we're going to do is we're going to start a brand new project that I can start sampling into. So we're going to go new, and we're going to go back down to the song view. I like to leave like tracks 1, 2, 3, and 4 available for like my drums. I'm using like track 5 for like bass right now, 6 and 7 for like melodic elements, and 8 for my effects. But one of the neat things about the tracker is as we start building out a song, we can actually have any track be any sound we want to. So like if we run out of tracks and we need to put, a melodic sound over on a drum track halfway through or something like that, we can absolutely do that. But I think it's good to have kind of a general workflow, that, I sort of follow, adhere to sometimes per se. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sample this onto track 6. We're going to start by creating a chain of patterns on track 6, and I'm just going to label that 6-0 at this time. We're going to go into that chain of patterns here, and then I'm going to make this, just for now, I'm just going to make this like a 4-bar pattern, or maybe an 8-bar pattern to start us off with, because I believe that the loop we're working with is 8 bars. But the whole point, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The whole point in like sampling external stuff into the mate is that we can chop it up inside of the mate and create, different patterns and different variations of what we actually sample in. So even though I'm, sampling in an 8-bar loop, we're probably going to chop this stuff up and not just play it back as an 8-bar loop per se. All right. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to now go ahead and go into the phrase page. We can get past that, and we can set up an instrument now for us to sample into. I like to start off with my instrument numbers the same as the track numbers. So I'm going to select instrument number 6 to work with, since we're working on track number 6. Hey, what's happening? We got Amhu in the chat. All right, thanks for tuning in. All right, so let's see here. This is a sampler. No, excuse me, I need to put it as a sampler. So we can scroll past their synthesizers and we can load a sampler here that we can actually record into. If I just highlight where it says record here and then I click over to the next page, this is the sampler window and we'll actually be able to see our audio coming through. Now I needed to create a workflow to be able to, record things out of the Force without like swapping a whole bunch of cables or whatnot. When I press play now, what we're actually hearing is we're hearing the main outputs of the Force. They're just going to my mixer underneath the desk, which is routed to the stream. The Force also has an external set of outputs 3 and 4, and I'm currently got a cable out of outputs 3 and 4, and that is routed directly in to the stereo input on the back of the tracker. I'm just using a splitter cable to get left and right stereo connection in here. So what I need to do is I just need to go into the mixer page on the AKAI Force. I need to go into the in and out section, and I just need to route the track that I want to sample in to the mate. I just need to route that out of the external outputs. Unfortunately, that means I don't get control anymore over the main volume knob when I want to control the level that I'm sending into the mate. But that's not really a problem. All I need to do is just bring the level on the mixer channel way down now, because again, we're not going to the main output, so this main volume knob doesn't have a effect on the sound. And if I leave that mixer volume way up and play that into the mate, it's gonna like explode everybody's ears, right? So let me show you what I mean. So let me switch this, get this a little, how did I get this a little bit more centered here for us? Cool. Okay, so now when I press play on the Force, whoa, sorry. Okay, still way too loud on the Force. And I think what I need to do also then is bring the volume down a little bit here inside of the mate. I'm going to bring the volume way down inside of the Force, and I'm going to try this again. Everybody watch your ears. I apologize for that explosion there. Yeah, it's still doing it. Okay, so, I'm sorry. I'm bringing the volume down on the wrong channel on the Force. So it was still at full volume. So everything that I just talked about and tried to avoid, that's exactly what I sent out to the stream. Sorry about that. That's what happens when you send full volume from that track into the mate. It's way too loud. So I need to bring the right channel on the Force way down. Sorry about that, everyone. And here we go with the actual correct volume level now. All right, so if we look, sorry about that. I hope I didn't explode anyone's ears or frustrate anyone enough to leaving the stream. What's happening, Joe? Hey, thanks for tuning in, Andrew. Okay, and what we're going to do then is, I can bring this up a little bit more in volume now. All right. Trying to get a nice hot level into the mate, but not too hot of a level. I think that's going to do pretty well for what we're trying to do. And what I want to do is I want to just sample this manually today. So there's 3 options. We can have this one. The first one is just start. So it'll start recording when I hit the edit button. The next option is just an arm option, which is like it will start recording once it passes this threshold that's set at the very top there. And then the next one is a song row, which is how we get it to record even when it is playing back. But right now, we're going to do this in the most, simpling sample method that we can. We're just going to hit start, and then we're going to play the loop on the Force all the way through, and then I'm going to stop the recording. So I'm going to go start, and then I'm going to launch the clip. We're going to let it play all the way through. 2, 3, and... Okay, and then I stop the recording, and then we can stop the force as well. And now we can see the recording here inside of the mate, and we can actually go in and edit that a little bit. We want to go get that start point right in as close to the beginning of the actual sample as we can, so I can move these start and end points. If I start zooming in by holding edit and then pushing the direction, we can see that the start numbers are moving even though we don't see anything. And now we'll see it actually hit the very beginning of that sample in this zoomed in view, right? We can see that sounds pretty good there. So I'm going to go down to crop. We're going to go ahead and crop the sample at this time, and then we're going to normalize it, get it to its full volume inside of the mate here. All right. I feel like I need to send a little more volume to the stream. Just let me know if we get too loud as the stream continues, guys. I'm just going to find out where the end point is on this. Okay, so there's just one note at the end that I'd rather not be there. Whoops, I did an undo, and as I didn't want to do. So let's normalize that again, and I want to be here, rather. And I just want to get that last note off. If I'm not mistaken, it might actually be right about here. I don't know. Let's listen to this. The thing here is that, or maybe I can actually move the start point for this, just for the testing purposes. That might be interesting. Oh, we certainly can. So all I'm doing is I'm just trying to make sure that my end point is set where I want it now. I think I could go maybe just the tiniest little bit further, that end point. Let's try here. Maybe just a little further still. I'm just trying to get this tiny little bit of like a click off the end of the sample here, because there is no fade out option inside of the sample record window. It's still just a really basic setup here. That sounds pretty good. We're going to go ahead and bring the beginning back to the very beginning, and we're going to crop that sample. Now we're going to go ahead and give this sample a name. And when I do that, I like to put the BPM in the name of the sample. So this is 116 beats per minute. What key are we in here? I don't remember exactly. So let me see if I can remember here inside of the... Looks like a pentatonic minor. Okay, so we're going to save, I like to save, the note key information in with the samples as well. It's like if you're digging through your samples like a year from now, it's really handy to have the tempo and the key, just embedded into the sample there. We're just going to call this like rhodes. And then space, and then like 1A. Okay, cool. Now we can go ahead and save this sample inside of the mate. There's a SD card on the side that it comes with, like a 32 gig card. So I was able to load quite a bit of my samples on here already. We can totally record into it, and there's tons of room on the card to save this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and save this. Let's go to packs, and then I have like a folder in here. Where is that? Of miscellaneous samples. Cool. We can save that right into that folder, and then it just sort of saves it and it kind of like reloads it. So now it knows where where that sample is. And what we can do now is when you actually load a sample into a sampler, it doesn't populate the name of this instrument with the name of the sample. And I often find that in my workflow, it's really important to name the instruments as we're going. You can load up to 128 instruments for a track. I haven't even gotten over 20 for a track, so it's pretty robust what you can load in here. So you could easily, get confused if you're not labeling things, is my point. So we're just going to label the track now, not the sample, but just the track. We're going to call this rhodes. Let's call this because we're going to chop it up. So let's call this rhodes chops 1, because we might have some more later. Rhodes chop 1, cool. And then let's go ahead and save at this point before we go any further. So we just need to give our project a name, and let's call this, since it's based around this Rhodes sample right now, let's just call this Rhodes space, and this is like a YouTube day, so let's call this Rhodes YouTube, and then let's just call it like some, other numbers or whatever, just so that it doesn't conflict with any other names, and we'll go ahead and save at this time. Fantastic. Song saved at the bottom left there. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and, before we worry about like chopping up this Rhodes sample or anything like that, let me just take 1 second and check in with the chat. I definitely want this to be a collaborative session today. So if you guys have ideas, if you have suggestions, if you have questions about the mate, or if you have questions about music production in general, please feel free to drop those in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer those. If I missed your question during the stream, I apologize. I know, sometimes as I'm, going back to put the timestamps in these live streams, I'll notice that I missed, quite a few good, important questions in the chat. So if I missed your question, sorry about that. Let's see here. Oh, hey, what's happening? Martin, I gotcha. All right. What's happening, Andrew? All right. Hey, we got Werb Perlin in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. 7 True, I can't pronounce your name. 7 True 80 Earn or whatever. Oh, hey, on the sample flip from Matthew Stratton. Right on. That was a really awesome one to be involved in. Boy, that brings back memories. That was fun with the NPCs. Yeah, all right. All right, we got VVLV Music. Hey, yeah, another mate session live. Right on. Thanks for being here, you guys. So get your collab and shoes on and get your ideas on. What we're going to do is go ahead and sample the bass line from the Force into the mate. And so what I want to do is I just want to prepare track 5 for the bass. And so we're going to, let's see here, I'll make that 60 rather, and make this 50. So basically I'm creating, pattern 50 as my first pattern on track 5, and pattern 60 for my first pattern on track 6, etc. We're not actually creating any patterns just yet. We're just getting it set up to do so. So now I'm back in the sampler window, but I want to choose a different instrument because we're on instrument number 6, which is our Rhodes instrument. I'm putting the bass on, track 5. So I'm going to try to get this on instrument 5. So if I just hold Option, I can select instrument number 5, and then I can select what kind of instrument I want. I can choose, one of their inbuilt synthesizers. I can choose the FM synth or the MIDI out, or we can just choose the sampler, which is what I want. And we want to record the bass line, so I'm going to go back into the recording menu, okay? And we haven't adjusted the levels. So I think we should be okay. Everybody watch your ears, and I'm going to test this level in 3, 2. Wrong track. Let's unmute the bass and mute the Rhodes and try again. Am I still muted? Where's that Rhodes? Oh, I see, because I don't have that coming out of outputs 3 and 4. No worries. I still have the bass sent to the main outputs, and we have the Rhodes sent to outputs 3 and 4, which is going to the mate. So I need to set the Rhodes back to outputs 1 and 2, and I need to set the bass channel to outputs 3 and 4. So now it's sending the bass to the mate, and I believe that's all we need to do, and I believe we'll hear it this time. Yeah, whoa, that's a bit loud. So let's bring this back down in the mixer. So it's a really fat bass, and it has kind of a knock sound at the beginning of it. But then it's kind of a mono bass, and it folds between the notes. It's not folds, it sort of slides and glides between some notes. But we get that hard, pop in there sometimes. All right. It's kind of like an overdriven bass sound. It sounds really good, I think, with those clean Rhodes. Okay. Let's go ahead and sample this in. So let's see here. All I need to do is we want to do it the same way we did before. I'm just going to cue it to start, and then I'm going to record the bass line. So start, and it's recording, and then I'll launch the bass clip. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 2, 3, and 8. stop it there. All right. Now, if we look on the screen, we can see that, last little hit there. That's where I want to trim the sample out at the end. We want to go ahead and trim the beginning to start with. So I'm just going to start zooming in here to that very beginning. Now, if I hold edit and, start scrolling, we can see the select numbers are moving, even though it doesn't really look like anything's happening. We're just zoomed in way, way far here. So we can get right into the beginning of that sample and trim that. So we can go ahead and crop it there. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to bring the end point the start point way over here so that we can hear what's happening at the end of the sample a little bit better. A little click there at the end, and I'd like to try to see if we can't get that to go away. Not sure if we need to go forward or backwards on that. It would be really awesome if they implemented a little like fade out feature for when we're trimming samples to get rid of these clicks. But we don't have that at this time, so I'm going to do my best just to sort of find a nice little part where we can trim that out, where hopefully it won't, click or pop. If it does, when we slice it up, I'll just not use that last little chop, if that makes any sense. But it'd be nice if we could get that out, if we can. I think I'm going to try a little bit going the other direction and see if that helps. And if not, then we'll just probably let that go and not use the very last little bit there. Maybe just one tiny bit more try. Come on now. Just a little tiny bit further in. Maybe right. No, it's really seeming to be going the opposite direction that I want to go and making the click even a little bit more prevalent. I don't know if you guys can hear that click coming through at the end of the sample on the stream. Sometimes when I watch these back, I don't actually hear on the stream what it is that I'm hearing now in the headphones. So, we're just going to go ahead and call it, and so I don't take too much of the stream up. So again, if there was a way to fade out the end of samples in the mate, that would be really awesome, but there isn't now. So we just need to sort of work around that as needed at this time. We're going to go ahead and name this sample so we can save it. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the Rhodes. We're just going to label this rather with the BPM. So it's 116 BPM, and this is in the key of A minor. So we'll put that into the sample name as well, A minor, and this is a bass, and we'll just give this a couple numbers or something so that it definitely has its own. I don't want to give it 666 though. Wait a minute. Let's just give it some fives or something, 5, whatever. And then we can save that at the reason I'm just putting a few extra numbers in there is, if we save another 116 BPM A minor bass, then I don't need to worry about those names conflicting. So let's just go ahead and save this. Yeah, save it into the missed samples folder. Fantastic. And now it just sort of reloads that up. What we've got now is we've got the bass and the Rhodes sampled into the mate from the AKAI Force. And what we can do is we need to give this instrument a name as well. So we're just going to call this bass. And we are going to chop up this recording. So we're going to call this, bass. Let's call this bass chops. Like 1. Cool. And let's go ahead and save at this time as well. So let's see here. Cool. Saved. Song saved. That's what I'm looking for. Right on. Now what we can do is actually create some patterns with these sounds that we've sampled. Let me just check in with the chat really fast. Don't be fooled. Oh, yeah. WWLV Music has an amazing point here, and I want to really bring that to the table. He says, don't be fooled by the limited buttons of the mate, because this thing can get insanely complex. Yeah, tons of shortcuts and clever layout. That's one of the amazing things about why I'm loving this so much. We don't have any knobs. There's no keyboard to work with. It's this. That's all we see. It's, what is this, 8 buttons. That's all you need to interact with this thing and get deep, and it's just you start developing muscle memory with some of these shortcuts, and it starts to become intuitive and really, really deep and really, really powerful. And we're going to get into some of that right now. we're going to start by creating some kind of a new pattern out of the rhodes that we sampled, okay? What I want to do is I want to create, let's just create just a 1-bar chain to start us off with. And what am I saying when I say like a chain? What am I even talking about, right? What I'm talking about is in the song view here, these numbers that we're creating are basically, they refer to a collection of measures. For instance, a amount of patterns. So like for instance, our first row here could be 1 measure patterns. It could be 4 measure patterns. These could be 8 measure patterns. These could be 16 measure patterns. So it's not set in stone, like pattern length or how long your sections need to be. But we're going to go into track 6 and a pattern 60 here that we created, which is just a 1-bar pattern. In this, in this chain menu, I set up how many times I want the pattern to play. So if I wanted this to be a 4-bar pattern, I could just put in, pattern 60 4 times, or I could put in pattern 60, then pattern 61, then pattern 62, and then pattern 63, and have 4 different, patterns. I hope that makes any sense. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back into, the actual samplers here. We're going to choose sampler number 6, which is our Rhodes chop. And I'm going to go down to where it says, let's see, I'm going to change the page so you guys can see the screen a little better. I'm going to go down to where it says slice here, and I'm going to change the number of slices in this sample, and we're going to make it, I don't know, let's start with 16 slices. And we just basically slice this long sample up into 16 individual slots, just like that. And to create a loop with this, first I guess I'll need to set the tempo of the mate to 116. It's defaulted at 120. I'm going to put it at 116. And let's see here. Now what we can do is just start putting in some notes. When you load a sample into the mate, like into the sampler, and you don't chop it up, it defaults to playing that sample back on C4. But if we have chopped the sample up, it starts dividing those slices up across the key bed, starting at C1. So if we want to get down to the chops for the Rhodes, all we need to do is put in the first note of C1 here. And now if I press play, we've got one nice clean chop. And the reason that I'm trying to think of like the most simple way that I can explain this. The reason that I absolutely love this workflow of like working with pre-recorded samples, slicing them up, and then rearranging them inside of a box, whether that be the mate or the digitact or the force or, the model samples or whatever the box may be. I just lost my focus entirely. Hold on, I'll get it back. Right. The reason that I like this workflow so much is that we know that the bass line and the Rhodes sample are in the same key as each other. So any way that I rearrange the slices of this pattern, we know that unless I start changing pitch and stuff like that, if I just rearrange the slices of these samples, I can create all sorts of different patterns and different variations. And that's what we're going to do right from the jump. We're going to try to create something using these, but it's not going to be this. It's not going to be like those grooves, that groove played back, how I made it. We're immediately going to start creating something new from that material. I hope that makes any sense at all. All right, so let's do that exactly here. All I need to do is, like, we can find out, let's see here. So an octave up would be C2. That would be 12 semitones up. It spread the slices that we, chopped across the semitones. So if I go to C2, that's chop 12. And then if I go up another semitone, that's chop 13. And then 14, 15, and there should be one on this one too. But there isn't. That's fine. But we have all... those chops are a little bit off because because of the way that I trimmed the end of that sample. Because let's see here. Let me show you what I mean by that. This divides into an equal number of samples, right? It's all we're doing is we're dividing the main sample into 16 individual pieces. So because I recorded the sound in, and because we had that little bit of difficulty trimming that end point like perfectly, when it's chopped up the sample, these aren't, mathematically even slices. So we'll need to keep that in mind as well. If this was a sample that we had loaded and it was like rendered from a DAW and was mathematically perfect in size, then those 16 chops that we chopped it into would be really precise. I hope that makes any sense as well. But this is just sort of, what we need to do when we're sampling in real time. This is kind of just old school sample workflow. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just arbitrarily start putting in some other notes and see if we can create, a brand new groove to start building with here. Now, I don't really have anything in mind per se. I'm just sort of experimenting at this point with some, placement of some of these notes. You can hear that's kind of like a flam there, and if it was a mathematically even, sample that we had chopped up, it wouldn't be flamming. So that is an issue that we're running into because we sampled it manually. How some of these aren't exactly perfect lined up to the grid exactly. But we're going to try to work around that. Just trying to figure out where I want to put a second note to create a groove. Sometimes, getting started takes me a little bit of time. So thanks for your patience, everyone, as we do some, experimenting here. Okay, so there we've got like a easy pattern that's, got its little bit of a vibe on it. And let's start creating something with this here. What let's do is maybe see if we can add, is it here? Yeah. I like the way that little kind of off is coming in. I'm going to make the volume on that note a tiny bit louder. Okay, I like that. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to tell this note that I just put in, that fourth note, we're going to tell it not to trigger every time it goes through the pattern. This is one of the funnest parts about using chops to create new grooves and patterns inside of the mate. We can hold this edit button down over on these I guess let me explain that. We get on each step of each track, we get the ability, on each step, okay, we get the ability to put up to 3 different effects. And these could be anything. These could be changing the filter cutoff. These could be like changing the, the amount of, delay going to a sound, or any number of options. We have a whole screen full of different commands that'll do different things. And we get to put up to 3 of these commands on every single step of every single track if we want to. What we're going to use is we're going to use the chance command. And one of the things that makes the chance command really powerful inside of the mate is not only is it allowing me to put a chance, like a probability, on whether that note will actually play, but it has a double-sided probability, meaning I can set the probability of what is to the left of that effect, and I can also set the probability of what happens to the right of this effect. Meaning, if I change some things on the right, let's say I change the pitch of the sound, and maybe I change the panning so that on this step that sound pans way to the right or something. I can use the chance so that the note may or may not trigger, and then I can use the chance on the right hand side so that when the note triggers it may or may not pan or may not change pitch. So that chance feature gets really, really powerful. We're only going to be using it just to turn the note on or off. But that's why you see at the bottom here say left and right, and we get a percentage on how likely the effects are to happen on the right hand side, and how likely we are that the note will trigger on the left hand side. I hope that makes any sense. I'm going to set that to about 46% chance that that new note will trigger. And now every time we're playing back through this, it's just a 1-bar pattern so far, and now we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep finding some cool sections of this chop that we can put in that will happen randomly. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, I feel like we're not sending at all enough level to the stream, so I'm going to go into the actual instrument itself. I'm going to bring the volume up on that. Yeah, that's better. Now we also have 3 built-in effects on the mate. These are global effects that we can send any instrument to. We have a global chorus effect. I'm going to put that up to like a 10. We have a global delay effect. Let's send them to some delay to the rhodes, And then also we have a global reverb effect. So I'm going to turn that chorus, the delay, and the reverb up just a little. So we're going to start getting a little bit more vibe on this from these extra effects being built in here. Maybe even more of these still. Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear that reverb and delay start to poke through a little bit. Maybe a little too much. I think we're going to go with that for now. Send a little bit more level out to the stream. I may need to adjust that as we keep adding, more parts and whatnot. So we're still this is just a 1 measure pattern, right? And I'm trying to go slow so that you guys can see this workflow of building, patterns and workflows up from the very, beginning of having sampled something in ourselves. I'm just going to keep playing this and see if we can slide in a few more of these chops. I really like the way that sounds. I'm going to bring the volume down. And then I'm going to tell that new F1 chop, the same thing that we did down here with that D sharp chop. We're going to give it the chance so that it may or may not play every time it goes through the pattern. We have our percentage of the chop down here that I put the chance on set to 46%. I'm going to make this one a little bit less. Make it 33% chance that that note will ever play. And let's see if we can find a few more that we can put in here as well. What if we put that one there? I like that. What I think I want to do is put a chance on that one as well. I think we're going to pan this note. So if I go up to the menu of commands, I can find the pan command. I believe it's down here in the very bottom, pan. And I can pan this note. It's like relative to its, setting in the sampler, which is just straight up and down. So I don't want to pan it super, super hard. Maybe like 20 to the right if that note hits. And so this is what I was saying before about the chance. The chance is in the middle of that note and of this panning command. So let's see here. When I hold edit, it's saying chance to right, of 33%. That means the note has a chance, a 33% chance that the note will be triggered as it plays through the pattern. And every time the note triggers, there's a 33% chance that it may or may not pan to the right. I actually want it to pan to the right, way like most of the time, if not all the time. And we can do that by just saying right 100%. Now, the left is 40%, but the right is 100%. So every time that note does get triggered, that panning will happen. Let me go ahead and save at this time. And thank you for your patience, everyone, as we're getting started from scratch today. It can take a little bit, long sometimes to get going. Let's see if we can add just a few more of these chops in here to get that, variation happening. And then I'll start checking in with the chat. I know it's been a while. I like that little sort of a pullback there. Yeah, I'm going to bring the volume a little bit more on that and give this a chance as well. Not the panning, rather, but the chance command. Maybe one more note down here. I like the way that sounds. What if we change the pitch of that last note? Now see, this is how we can do that, because if I just change the actual note number here, it's not going to change the pitch. It's going to change the slice of the sample. It's going to change which chop is playing. I'd like to maybe see if we can't bring the pitch down on this one 2 semitones, and maybe we can do that here by choosing the pitch command, and then over here we can maybe bring that down too, right? That was cool. I'm not sure I like that, so let's maybe bring it up 3. Whoops. Instead, that sound. No, maybe down 5 instead. Maybe that's it. I think that's it. What I want to do is I want to bring that down in volume. So I'll change the velocity on this one, make it a lot, lower. Cool. And I also want this one not to play every single time the pattern plays through, so we're going to give a chance command on just that step. I really hope that this is coming across and you guys are following what I'm saying here. We're going to make this, let's say, 26% chance that it will happen. I typically like to make the left and the right numbers sort of even if nothing on the right, but that's just sort of me being anal, There's not really a workflow there. That's just me. We're going to go ahead and save at this time. Song saved. Fantastic. What we've got now is we've got this really basic 1-bar groove starting to happen. But the thing is that it changes a little bit, every single time it plays through the pattern. And that's what we're looking for here, to create a little bit more interest and less of a static pattern from something that we sampled in that was just a, very plain 8-bar loop. This is something completely different sounding already. And what we know is this is still in the key of A minor, so that when we start slicing up our bass and trying to arrange a new bass line from the bass line that we sampled, we know we're probably not going to have any difficulty doing that. Let me check in with the chat real fast. Yeah, this is a magic piece of gear, Andrew. It really has been like I haven't had I have a lot of gear in here, and I haven't been excited to use a piece of gear in quite some time, maybe since the Digitact or my initial discoveries with Eurorack. But the Mate, I kind of just can't put it down. It's doing so many different things. The fact that it can be a MIDI sequencer for external gear, I found was just incredible. Mr. MV Dirty. The FX command list is really comprehensive. Yeah, exactly. Falling in love with it. Yeah, I absolutely did. The thing is what really sort of stuck to me is that once you've got something that you're happy with, maybe you're producing that on your monitor speakers and you've got the mix all nice or whatever, you can kind of just, it's battery operated, so you can kind of just pop your earbuds in or even use these tiny little internal speakers and just kind of walk around with it, and it's very different. I'm sort of always in this room per se, and this is, I know I have other gear that's battery operated or you can plug it into a battery, but this was just, it's really simple and it's really easy and it's really awesome to just kind of walk around with and work on something here and there that you've been putting together. I think it's the form factor is what I'm trying to say, that at the end of the day is just, wow, really fun to work with. Just because it's such a, it's like working with your phone. We're already used to kind of holding small devices, but as a dedicated music making device, I feel different interacting with this than I do interacting with my phone, if that makes any sense at all. Hey, what's happening? What's happening, Douglas? Thanks for tuning in. What's happening, Zach? What's happening, Rob? I definitely have thoughts on the mate versus the Polyend tracker, and let's talk about that for a minute, Zach, because I really think that is a great discussion. My main, I think the biggest, because there's so many similarities between these, the workflow is basically the same. You've got 8 tracks, it's a tracker so that you can put any notes on any step of any track or any instruments on any step of any track. But that's really where the similarities end with these boxes. The Mate has 3 internal synthesizers. It has like a sort of a chiptune synthesizer. It has an FM synthesizer, and it has the braids, the mutable instrument braids oscillator. So it actually has like a Eurorack module in it. The braids oscillator has a whole bunch of different algorithms in it. So you've got 3 pretty darn capable built-in synthesizers. You've also got a MIDI out, so any track can be a MIDI track controlling external gear at the same time as you're using, the Mate's internal stuff. And then we've got this sampler inside of it that we can sample into in real time, chop up the samples, and rearrange them to create brand new grooves. It comes with a 32 gigabyte memory card that you can load samples into, and it can load up to 24-bit full stereo sounds, whereas the tracker is like 16-bit mono, just like the Digitact is 16-bit mono. The tracker can't load stereo samples, but the Mate can, and that's really cool. There's no internal synthesizers, inside of the Polyend tracker, and the form factor. You can plug this into a battery and you can, sit on the couch with it, but it weighs a lot. It's a heavy, strong built box. It's nothing like, it feels like you're actually working with a big old chunky piece of gear, whereas the Mate, is just very small and very convenient. One of the neat things about the tracker, though, is it's got some granular stuff in it. It's got like a full granular synthesizer engine, which is really cool. The Mate doesn't have that. And it also has a ridiculously powerful performance mode where you can like assign different effects to all of these buttons to where like, button 3 is going to change the pitch on a sample, or, button 4 is going to activate I don't know, another effect or something like that. And we don't have that sort of a performance mode inside of the Mate. But we do get a neat type of performance feature in the Mate. It's actually a touch screen device, and you can assign any one control that you'd like to the actual screen of the device, and then interact with that like sort of like you would a Chaos Pad, like by moving the filter, by touching your finger on the screen. You can't do that on the tracker. At the end of the day, I think both of these boxes are really cool and really fun boxes, but there's definitely something about the Mate that is really, really pulling to me more than, most of the other pieces of gear in this room. And I think it's just that size factor and how it's just really comfortable and really simple. Once you start learning the workflow, holding shift and using the directions, or, pressing option here, it starts to just build into muscle memory. And I'm finding, that I'm able to just pick it up and go. I think that probably has a little bit to do with the fact that I've already got some tracker experience, though, using the Polyend tracker. If this was like my very first tracker experience, I might not have gelled with it quite as quickly. One more thing that I can think of that's a really, really big difference between, and it might not sound like it at first, okay, but being as though that I've used both of these now, it's huge, like night and day huge, okay, and that is the tracker. The Polyend tracker has 2 rows for effects on each note. So you can use one of those to like choose the slice number of you can slice samples up inside of the Polyend tracker. You could chop stuff up just like we did here. They're going to be mono samples though. Oh, shoot, hold on. Okay, right. But once you're arranging out like your chops, right, you're going to need to use an effects lane to choose which slice of the sample you want. So that takes up one of the effect slots just to move the slices around. Now, in the mate, we haven't used any effect slots to tell it what slices we want to work with. Those are, we're assigning the slices based on the note numbers, not on an effects. So in the Polyend tracker, we have to use an effect slot, and instead of saying chance or whatever, it's going to say slice number. And now this is where it's really important. The Polyend tracker only has 2 lines of effects. They don't have 3. And you need to use that first effects slot to choose the sample. So if you want to, let's say, do a roll or a filter change or any type of change on a slice in the Polyend tracker, you've only got one extra effects slot to do that. So I can put like a slice number on the first one. I can put like, oh, I don't know, a roll on the second one. But what if that roll is suddenly too loud and it like sticks out of the beat that I'm creating? It's not necessarily then easy to adjust the volume, because in the tracker, adjusting the volume would take another effect slot. And we don't have that. So not only do we get a third effect slot in the mate, it's really like we get a fourth effect slot, because it doesn't take an effect slot to assign the slices. So you still, on every single step, even if you're slicing and chopping over here, you still have 3 different effect slots. So I can choose what slice I want, and then I can like pan it. I can change the volume just with the velocity. I can change the filter cutoff, and I could also change the pitch. So 3 different things that I could do, whereas in the tracker, it's really only one thing you can do after you assign what slice you want to do. So that is definitely a really big part of the workflow that makes the mate really shine for sure, is that you've got those more effect slots, and it doesn't take an effect slot to actually assign your sample. Now, I'm just going to briefly go over this because I'm not like the most knowledge in this area, so I don't know exactly how to put this across. But let's talk about the audio engines that are in these devices, okay? The mate is built on something called a teensy. I don't have any information as to like exactly what that is. It's some little computer chip type of thing that allows, the code to work inside of the unit. So that is the quality of the audio that we get in the mate. We get however high quality or low quality the quality you get out of a teensy can be. So if we're comparing the audio engines, specifically the audio engine in the tracker to the audio engine in the mate, I think they're pretty comparable, even though the mate can load stereo samples. And I think that maybe the audio engine in the tracker might be a couple of notches more hi-fi or more clean. I don't know. Maybe it's built on a teensy too. I don't know, and I don't know like what all the details about and the ramifications on that kind of stuff are. I can say this: you're not gonna like be making the same quality of music out of the mate tracker that you might make in something like Ableton, where you have access to all of those different EQs and effects and compressors and saturators. And you're not going to be making the same quality of music out of the mate that you could make out of something like the AKAI Force, with all of this, full hi-fi audio engine and all of these EQs and compressors and saturators and all those kind of tools. This is a very, very basic tool, which is also why I think I'm drawn to it so much, is I'm not spending a lot of time like fiddling around with adjustments. I'm more spending time fiddling around with making music. I find that once I've gotten a little bit more used to the muscle memory and I'm able to actually navigate around the mate, it starts to get really easy and really fun. And it just kind of is, for me personally, it's really, really calling to me. Like when I'm not using it, it's calling to me. It wants to be used. It wants to make music. It wants to go. It really does. All right. I'm going to check in with the chat real fast. Hey, we got 2 usernames in the chat. All right. Good to know. Cool. Yeah, the mate is absolutely really special. I'm way back in the 80s. I had like a flip open like Donkey Kong machine or whatever, and I played the hell out of that. And I think that if you've ever had like any sort of handheld device, like a handheld gaming device or any type of handheld device that you've used a lot, that's not a phone, then I think the tracker really like feels familiar, almost familiar is what I want to say there, and just been a blast to use once I've gotten started, figuring out how to use it. Cool. Let's make some more music, you guys. What I think we're going to do is go ahead and chop up this bass. Please tell me the program is still responding, and it is. Awesome. Okay. So we've got a really simple, a 1-bar Rhodes part that we made by chopping up the Rhodes that we sampled, and we've made something completely different out of that. And we're going to continue fleshing that out. We're going to do the same thing now, though, with this bass. So we're going to go ahead and chop it up. I'm just going to make a 1-bar pattern here. Again, I'm making the pattern number 50 because I'm, let's see here, I'll put this as 50 as well. And this is just my workflow. You'll need to come up with however you work with the tracks. But I find that starting on pattern 10, for row 1, starting on pattern 20 for row 2 is a pretty good workflow so far for me. Right, so we're going to chop up this bass. We're on the Rhodes chop now, and I want to be on the bass, so I'm just selecting that instrument. If we go over to the slices section, you can see it says off right now, but we'd like to slice this up. And let's slice it up into 16 equal parts. And we can go ahead and, again, putting these the slices in, it defaults to C1. The default velocity in the tracker is 64, so often I'll go back to that velocity when I'm starting with a new pattern. I don't want to accidentally put something in too quiet, for example. We're going to go ahead and just start playing this now, and I'll start adjusting some volumes and seeing if we can't get a bass to start gelling with this Rhodes loop. Since we're in the phrase, actually, that I'm working with, this is a really neat function of the mate. Since we're like inside the piano roll of the bass, if I just press play here, it only plays this window that I'm in right now, making it really easy for me to work on individual patterns. But if I want the full pattern to play, all I need to do is hold shift and then play, and I can get all of the tracks that are playing currently to start going. What I'm doing here is just mixing up some different notes and trying to create a pattern, and that sort of grooves, and I think that D sharp 1 chop there is going to be alright. Oops. Nope. I think maybe I'm on a note that's not really cool. So this, let's see here, this chop here on A1 is playing a little bit more than I would like it to, and it's kind of, I like the note that it plays at the beginning, but then it's playing some extra notes after that before it gets to that D sharp 1 chop, and I really want it to stop before it gets to that. So we're going to put a kill command here, which basically just stops any note that is playing when it gets to that effect. So I'm just choosing, this step, a couple of steps before that D sharp 1, where I'm going to try to basically choke this note here. And let's see if we can do that. I'm going to hold edit down, and we're going to scroll up to all these different commands, right? Up here I can choose the kill command, which is just going to stop, whatever note is playing when it hits that. I need to tell it that it should happen right as that happens. There we go. Oops, almost. There we go, 0 steps and 0 ticks. So it happens exactly when that kill command happens. It will shut off the bass. This may sound good. It may create a click or sound weird. We're going to find out. There's a little bit of a click on this chop here, but we're not going to worry about that for today's session. The kill is definitely stopping the bass where I want it to stop, and that's all good. So if we want to play the Rhodes, you know, again, we just hold shift and play. Cool. What we've got now is the really, you know, basic 1-bar groove with a bass and a Rhodes, but it's different than what we, you know, sampled into it, because we're creating something different by chopping up the samples and, you know, using them creatively right from the beginning of the session. What let's do is go ahead and create a 2-bar loop to happen for the Rhodes now. What a really neat little shortcut to, like, if we want to just copy this phrase in here to the first available empty phrase, we can do that. All we need to do is go shift and option, and then we just go where we want to put it. Whoops, we just go shift. I'm sorry, let's see here. What I want to do is I want to go shift and option, and then I want to hit edit twice. And what that does is it cloned phrase 60 to phrase 61. So I can put in phrase 61, and if I go inside that, there we can see that that is in fact the phrase. So now this is the track that's playing the Rhodes, and it's going to play a 2-bar part now. It's going to play, you know, pattern 60, which is a 1-bar pattern, and then pattern 61, which is a 1-bar pattern. So I can show you that. You see that little yellow arrow tick back and forth between those patterns? And this is where we can start making a variation now. I can take all of these notes here at the end, and I can just delete those. Maybe try to find another note to put in as a turnaround for this measure. Ooh, that might work. Oh, that's the bass. This is a really great, I'm glad that happened so I can show you. This is what I mean by you can put any instrument from the project on any track. It's selected on instrument number 5 on the note that I just put in, which is actually our bass. But I want to put in instrument number 6, and all I need to do is select that instrument here, instrument number 6. So on any track, on any step, you could have any of your 128 instruments possibly playing. It's really, really powerful, and that sort of, you know, detail can get away from you pretty quick if you're not careful. Maybe we want to put the note on that instead, and we want to pick a different chop. I like that one. It's kind of a variation of the sort of main downbeat hit, and I also want to pan this one a little bit. Let's go ahead and just copy this command here by selecting it and tapping option. Then I can just hit edit again, and nope, it didn't. I'm sorry, hit shift and edit, and there we go. Now I can pan this one a little bit to the left instead of to the right, just to get a little bit more variation in that. Yeah, I like that. Maybe a little bit less. And also, let's put a chance command on this as well, so that it doesn't happen every single time. Now we can decide, you know, what the actual chance probability of it to play is. Let's put 46 on this. Cool. Let's go ahead and save at this time. I like it. You can save as it's playing as well. Now, if I just want to get the whole pattern playing, all right. Starting to get a little bit of variation here. I'm going to check in with the chat real fast. I'm curious, MV Dirty says that there are additional effect slots that I haven't had a chance to show so far. Do you mean the tables? Because I haven't exactly figured out exactly that part of the workflow yet. If this feels like a pretty powerful little device, it's even more powerful than that. Like, I'm really still pretty darn new to this. I'm able to get around it and stuff, but I don't know like the ins and outs, like those really juicy things that make things awesome. Like memorizing all of the different effects commands and stuff like that, and getting into how to use the tables. And I'm sure I'm going to keep discovering more and more about this as I keep using it. What let's do is let's flesh this pattern out a little bit more. All right. And so we have a 2-bar Rhodes loop, but if we go into our bass loop, it's still just a 1-bar pattern, okay? I want to clone this the same way that we did with the Rhodes so that I can copy our existing pattern really easily into the first available blank pattern. I'm just going to hit Shift and Option, and then I'm going to hit Edit twice. Cloned phrase 50 to 51. And that's just something that, you know, it's not that big of a deal once you memorize it. At first, it's like, wait, shift and what? It's, you know what I mean? But it's really easy to, you know, to work with. We're going to go ahead and change that number to 50 and the next one to 51. And if I go in there, we can see that it's copied our, you know, pattern into 51 for us. And that's just a really easy way to take the next available pattern. You have a total of 255, if I'm not mistaken, patterns in the whole machine for your whole entire track. So like that's like what, 8 tracks at 32 different patterns per track if they were all 1 bar. So if you have, you know, if you have patterns that are taking up more than 1 bar, then it's taking up more than 1 pattern. I haven't run out of patterns yet, and I've, you know, created a few different tracks in here. What I would like to find out is if there is a way that, like, as we're like building and we've used a lot of patterns, if there's a way to like figure out exactly how many patterns are remaining, you know, because that I don't know how to find out. And if that's in there, I need to figure out how to find it out. All right, cool. So we're going to try to make a variation on the bass now by going into that second measure. I'm going to play like the whole, you know, pattern here with the Rhodes and everything. I think I want to, this is the second bar here. I think I want to delete this little second half. We do that by getting into selection mode by hitting Shift and Option. Now I can just use the arrows to, you know, navigate around. And if I don't want these here, I can press Option and Edit at the same time and delete those. I think maybe on this one. Oh, I'm on the Rhodes. Wait a minute, wait a minute. That's the wrong instrument. So I just need to select instrument number 5 so that it knows that I'm trying to affect the bass. Okay, I'm liking what that's doing right there, so we're going to leave that chop in. And I'm going to try to put in another bass note, maybe at the beginning. I'm not sure that's actually putting in a note, but I like it if it is, and we're going to leave that there. I don't think it is, though. I think we are out of chops there, so maybe we'll go down. Maybe put that on a different one there. Like a off, sort of. Not the right chop number, maybe, but I like the vibe. Trying out different bass chops here, and maybe put a kill command here so that it stops that note from playing, and I'll need to adjust the amount of steps to it. Sometimes takes me a little bit of a time here, but if I just hold it down to the right, it'll eventually get there. There we go. 0 and 0. Maybe on the one underneath it. No, that's not quite right either. Maybe we just need one more at the end. Dun, 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 boom. Is it here? Yeah, and I'm also too high in the velocity, I think. Our default velocity on these should be like 64. So let's fix that. Maybe this F1 could come down one. I'm not sure on that. Whoops. No, it was better where it was originally. All right. Don't fight it, Dean. Okay, cool. What let's do now is let's go ahead and start working on some drums so that we can get some actual rhythm happening here. And before we do that, I'm just going to take a moment and try to check in again with the chat. It's a little difficult because I got the chat window way over here and I'm like buried in the unit here. So thanks for your patience, everyone. And again, feel free to ask any questions. I'll do my best to answer those, whether they be about the mate or like other, music production stuff in general. Polyend tracker is a teensy. Mate is a teensy. And the horsepower difference between 3 and 4 is quite large. Hey, I really appreciate that information, MV30. That's awesome to know. Sweet. Oh yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. I didn't even mention that yet. Happy Halloween, everyone. All right, cool. Yeah, the tables have more effect slots. And so MV Dirty, those effect slots, if I put them on the step of the table, will that work on the same step of my pattern? Is that a thing? Because does that mean, are you trying to tell me that I have 6 effect slots per step? Is that what you're saying? Because I can't even comprehend that. Is that what you're saying? That's incredible if that's what's going on. Wow. All right, so we're at 116 BPM. A cool thing would be if we could find like a drum loop that sounded neat, that was like 116 BPM, that we could start chopping up and creating some, unique stuff with or whatever. So let me see if we can make that happen. For the drums, I often like to start on track 1. So let's go ahead and put in a pattern here, pattern 10 rather, not a pattern, but a chain reference. So in the song mode, when we put these numbers in, these numbers represent chains of patterns, right? And if we go into that chain, then here we see, which actual patterns are in the chain. And it can get a little confusing because it doesn't have to be a chain. It can just be one pattern if you want, Right now, let's only just create just a 1 bar, whatever. And let's go ahead and go into the sampler page. And this is going to be instrument number 1. So let's go ahead and hold option, and then we can choose, hold edit rather, and we can choose, what instrument we want to load. They got the MIDI out, the FM synth, the sampler, the macro synth, which is the braids oscillator from Mutable Instruments, and then their wave synthesizer, which is kind of like a chiptune analog synthesizer. We want the sampler, so we're going to go ahead and select that. We just want to go to sample and load. Puts us right into the SD card here. We can go to packs, and I have my Infinite Inspiration pack loaded in here, which I actually made for the Polyend tracker. When I made that, I wasn't even aware of the mate, so I was really stoked to have that. It's really like 4,800 and some odd samples, including a lot of drum loops. So we're going to go into this folder here and see if maybe we can find a drum loop at 116 BPM. Here's a folder of drum loops 101 BPM to 129. So do I have something in here at 116? Because that would really be awesome. We don't. We have stuff in here at 116, which is 115 rather, which is pretty close to 116. So what I can do then, can I play the groove this one? Yeah, cool. But we are at 116. So what happens? Let's see here. What happens if I were just to grab that sample, but if I were to change our tempo to 115, even though we sampled our bass and rhodes at 116, does that screw the groove too much? Let's find out. I think we could probably get away with shifting our tempo just 1, BPM away, which might, help these drum loops slot in a little better for us. Let's find out. We scroll down here to those 115 drum loops. I don't really want to try to worry about like time stretching and that kind of stuff on a live stream. No, what I'm looking for, or rather listening for here, is I'm listening for just the sounds in the drum loop, not necessarily the beat itself, because we can chop it up and create any type of rhythm we want with the sounds. So it's more important, I'm locking in the tempo, but it's more important that the sounds of the beat gel rather than like the actual groove itself. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Like this one's a little bit more, glitch hoppy. Not exactly the kind of sounds we want. We want some more mellow sounds, maybe. That's a pretty fat beat. I kind of like that one. Let's see what else is here. This one has more flavor and more swing to it. Alright, so let's see here. I'm not exactly sure how to stop it while we're in that window is the thing. So what do you guys think? Should we go with, let's see, should we go with the more mellow loop, or should we go with the more funky loop? So let's, in the chat, if you could just say like straight or funky. This is the straight one, and this is the funky one. So the straight one has kind of more beefy drums, and the funky one has kind of more, like less low frequency content in those drums. We gotta vote for funky. Hey, thanks, Nils. I'd like to do an experiment where we, just sample out of the Raveolution into the mate. That's the beauty of it being a sampler, is that, we can really sample whatever we want into it. And I love that. I love working with, samples, as you guys know. We got one for funky. We got one for straight. We got another one for funky. Thanks for participating, you guys. All right. Oh, wait a minute. We've got more now. 1, 2, 3. We got 4 for funky. Looks like it's going to be funky. All right. So let's go ahead and chop this one up. And this one is rendered from like a DAW. So it should be like mathematically equal per se. And when I divide it into 16, slices, they should really, kind of snap into place a little bit. We could start creating a groove here. So this is instrument number, oh, I put it on 3 by mistake. Well, that's not what I want at all. Let's fix that. Yeah, it looks like I accidentally was on instrument number 3 here for some reason. So I'd like to, fix that now rather than just be on the wrong instrument the whole time. And that should be pretty easy. I can just bring this back to a sampler. Whoops, come on now, to a sampler. There we go, cool. And then we can go back to load, and we can go back to packs, and we can go back to infinite inspiration, and we can go back to those drum loops 2, and then we can find that last one at 115 BPM, which was the funky one. Oh yeah, cool. And we can load that into the correct sampler number. I'm not really sure how I did that, but it is what it is. We're going to want to sample, not sample, but slice it into 16 slices. We're going to want to go into sampler 3 and turn off those slices as well, so we can, kind of keep that. I don't know how to delete a sample into it. There we go. I deleted the sample in. All right, fantastic. I just pressed both, and it sort of kicked it out. Let's go ahead and save at this time, shall we? And then we're ready to put the beat in. Cool. All right. So now we can just start messing with these chop numbers here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to create a beat using these chops, and by, rearranging them and whatnot. I love being able to slice up samples, and this is just so easy to do it in. And there we go. Boom, we've got ourselves an awesome little drum beat here. What I'm going to do is put in some more hi-hats, change these velocities, right? Yeah. And then we're going to tell these to have a chance so that they don't happen every single time it happens through the bar, right? We're going to go up to the chance, and then we're going to put these, oh, I don't know, maybe like, how about 26% chance that those extra hi-hats will happen. What we can do is we could actually grab those, we could go into selection mode rather by holding shift and option, and we could select that whole little step there. If I hit option again, it copies it, and now I could paste that in a few more spots, so we have a few more extra hi-hats coming in this pattern. Maybe I could just put them in all, but they all have that chance feature now. So let's see what happens when we play in fact, some of these maybe should have less of a chance than some of the other ones. So maybe we could have, like 13% chance, maybe 20. Yeah, cool. And then maybe, oh, I don't know, 20 on this one as well. Cool, let's play this pattern. So we start getting these extra hi-hats now, only happening sometimes through the groove. Wow, there are a couple of types of tables that can be started and clocked in different ways and at wildly different speeds, applying effects to all sorts of things. That sounds like really powerful and something that I'm definitely going to need to wrap my head around. Awesome. Bring some of the velocities down on these hi-hats. I feel like we're a little bit loud on some of these hats. And I want it to be like, kind of a drummer is just funking out with them and not quite as, mathematical and loud, if we can, do that. There's also a way to like shift some of these notes off the beat and stuff like that and get a little bit more groove involved, but I'm not really versed in that just yet. So we're going to go ahead and go with that, I think. Save at this time. So it's just a 1-bar drum loop, but all of our other patterns are 2 bars. So what we want to do is make the drum part 2 bars as well to match up with those. And I'd like to be able to have an A pattern and a B pattern. So we're going to clone the A pattern into the next available free pattern by holding shift, option, and then it selects it, and then I hit edit twice. Cloned phrase 10 to 11. So I can, let's see here, tell that first phrase to be 10 and the second phrase to be 11. What I can do is I can go into select mode and I can delete like this entire second half of the second variation, right? And start trying to put something else in. I want to get back up to our original velocity of 64. So we got that other snare in. Something here. Just find out which chop slides in there, maybe. Maybe it needs to go on 4 instead of 5. Yeah. Cool. I'm just picking, different chops and seeing if anything, sounds good. And I really like that extra snare hit here. What I want to do is I'd like to change the pitch on this particular note to be like 1 semitone down in pitch. Let's bring this so it's -1. Cool. And then let's put a chance here so that it doesn't happen every time through the pattern. Let's go chance, and let's set this to, oh, I don't know, maybe like just under 50, so like 40%. Cool, I like the way that sounds. And let's keep working on this here. All right. Just changing the velocity on that new snare. A little more finesse. That's perfect. Okay, so what I've done here is I've created another variation, but to me, this sounds more like, how do I say, more like a turnaround of a 4-bar pattern than it does of a 2-bar pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to make all of the patterns into 4-bar patterns at this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell our drums to play pattern 10, 10, 10, and then 11. So A, and B. So we're using that new one as more of like a turnaround pattern than a variation. What we can do now is just go into these and double these so that instead of 2, that they're playing 4 bars. So it's pattern 50 and then 51 back and forth. So I'm just going to make that happen again. Pattern 50 and 51 back and forth. The same thing with the next one. It's pattern 60 and 61. So let's go pattern 60 and 61. And now all of our patterns are 4-bar patterns, and definitely we'll want to save at this time. Cool, song saved. So currently, if we check out the drums here, you know, we've got that turnaround at the end now. Whoops. All right, so a little bit of variation and turnaround happening there. I think that there may be a tiny little bit too much high frequency content on our drums. So we have this neat thing where we have a filter on every single instrument. I can turn this from the off position to a low pass filter, and I can maybe just gently ease off a tiny little bit of the high frequency content on our drum loop by bringing that low pass filter down. To make it a little bit more of a lo-fi kind of a beat. All right. I hope that's sounding halfway decent. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to mix on headphones. So what I think I'm going to do is just click on my monitor speakers real fast so I can maybe adjust the mix of these 3 tracks before we keep moving forward. I'm pretty happy with the way that's sounding, actually. I turned up the rhodes 2 notches, and I turned up the bass 1 notch as well to try to help them, stand up against these drums. I think the bass might have like literally one click too much low frequency content. So I'm going to put a high pass filter on the bass, bring that all the way down, except for like maybe, I don't know, one notch maybe even no notches. I can't decide whether I want to leave that on and just call it. Maybe I'll just leave it on and just call it. Alright. I still think I want to bring the drums down like one tiny click. Oh, I see. Okay, so I can do that here. This is the mixer page, and I typically don't use this page to change the levels of my tracks because, like I said before, we can have different instruments on the tracks as we continue the song out. So like if I change the volume on one of the tracks here, that's going to change the volume for any instrument that we put on in the future. But I think this is going to be just our main drum track, and so I'm only going to bring that down, like I just want to bring it down one click is the thing. And the reason I did that there instead of inside of the sampler is that the sampler is already at its lowest volume here. The amplitude is at 0, so I can't bring this down any further. But I can give this a name while we're in here, and this is our drum. This is our, let's just call this beat 01 for now. Beat 01, cool, and right on. So we've got a 4-bar pattern. Let's go ahead and get like a crash cymbal in type of thing to accent, the downbeat or whatever. I'd like to put my effects on track 8. So let's go ahead and make this pattern, 80. And if I go into that, chain of patterns, I can tell it to, put in pattern 80. These are 4-bar patterns. So if I wanted to actually play like a crash and then rest for a certain number of bars, then I would need to, put in a pattern and then a different pattern to rest. I also am going to want to make these into 8-bar patterns now so that the crash only triggers every 8 bars instead of every 4 bars. But we can do that once we get it in itself. Now I want to go to instrument 8 since we're starting on track 8. So I'm going to go instrument 8 and I'm going to assign this to a sampler. I'm just going to go in and load. I'm going to go to the packs. I'm going to go to my infinite inspiration pack for the Polyend tracker because I'm really familiar with this pack and I know where the sounds are in it. I have a folder in here called Dean's Effects Stash, which is just like my go-to effects sounds that I pretty much use in like every track that I make because they sort of just work. And once you got sounds that just work, there's not really a whole lot of reason to be searching for other sounds. You know what I mean? Not for every single track per se. So this is just a noise crash that I'm putting in. Sounds a little bit like that, and we can by default give this a little chorus. Maybe give this some reverb and delay as well, and maybe bring the volume up a little on that, maybe a little bit less. And also maybe put a high pass filter on this one and get rid of just a few of those extra low frequencies that may be trying to hide out down there, and just kind of creating a crash type of sound here. What I want to do is put this on the downbeat of our pattern 80 there. And this is, again, when we put in a sampler, and then we load a sample and we don't chop that sample up, it defaults to that sample's root pitch at C4, and it defaults our velocity at 64, so I like to try to get that back there as well. We're currently, hearing it just banging away every 1 bar. If I play the chain, we'll hear it hit every 4 bars. Whoops. Here we go, right? But I only want this to play every 8 bars. So now we're going to make these chains for all of the parts that we've got so far. We're going to make these 8-bar patterns. So I'm going to say for this chain to play our pattern 80, so play the crash, and then play pattern 81 7 times. And pattern 81 is just an empty pattern, so we only get the crash on the downbeat, and then it plays that empty pattern 7 times for a total of 8 bars. I hope that's making sense, and I'll check in with the chat in just a moment and make sure that you guys are following along okay. Here's now our Rhodes pattern on track 6, and we can see that it's just going back and forth between 60 and 61 for 4 bars, and we want it to go for 8 bars now. So now I've got 8 different variations there, and we want this to be 60, 61, and 60, 61. Now it's got 8 patterns to play through, so it's going to keep all of these, in time. We don't need to keep them all in time, though. We could have one track that's playing 1-bar patterns and, playing our song at a different speed than the rest of ours. I don't really get into that type of workflow myself, but it's in here, and you can do that. We're going to do the same thing here for the bass. We're going to tell it to be an 8-bar pattern. So we're just going to keep going back and forth between 50 and 51 and 50 and 51. So our 2 patterns that we created for the bass will now play for 8 bars. If we go over to the drums and we go into our drums, we can do that same thing, except our drums plays back a little bit differently. It's not A, B, A, B. It's A, 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 B, right? So I'm going to go 10, 10, 10, and then 11, which is our turnaround pattern. So we got like 3 bars and a turnaround, and then 3 bars and a turnaround. I hope that all makes sense, as all I'm doing is extending these patterns out so they're all playing an 8-bar pattern. And the reason that we did that is so that the crash symbol that I put in will now play on the downbeat of every 8 bars, and it sounds like this. Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay, I really appreciate you letting me know that the screen capture is frozen, and I will try to get it going again. Oh, okay. Is it going? It seems like it's already going again. I didn't really do anything. Really, really appreciate you letting me know. All right, thank you. Okay, so our crash is working, right? Fantastic. So what we've got here is a really simple groove that we created, and what I want to do, whoops, I screwed that up. I got into live mode by mistake. Shift and left to exit. Cool. Save this and save. Cool. So before we go any further, right, got a lot of stuff going on the screen at the same time here. So this is our groove. It is 116 beats per minute, but let me remind you of what we started with, though. Maybe not. Because those are routed to the wrong output, is that why? And that's muted, that's why? Yeah, okay, cool. So if I just unmute this, we get to hear those again, right? And I can bring these volumes back up to 1 where they were, and then we can hear it. Right, so again, our track right now. Probably need to send more level out to the stream. And what we started with. Completely different vibe. Same tempo, same sounds. That's a really great idea then. What we need to do, I think, is to create like a pattern 1 that's playing these sounds in their original form, and then maybe we could use, I would go back and forth between these. Cool. Yeah, let's set that up. All right, let me go back over here. Just keeping up? It looks like it is. Okay. What let's do is if I go back to the song menu here, we can select this whole row that's playing by going into select with the shift and option. I can highlight this row and then I can just hit option again. So it's copied the selection there for me. Now I can hit shift and edit and I can just paste that right into the pattern beneath it. And I can create like a new pattern to put above it, which I think we're going to leave the drums the way they are, but we're going to maybe now have a variation where it is playing our groove as it was recorded out of the Force, and then we'll have 2 different variations, which should be really awesome. what we're going to do is I'm going to, let's see, if we go in here, we can see that it's just two back and forth patterns, and I think that's fine for now. What I want to do is I want to clone this to a new pattern so that we can use the next available empty patterns to create something new. I'm going to hit Shift and Option and then just double tap Edit. And now it's made a whole different set of patterns inside of the chain that I can actually work with. What I want to do though is I want to go into 53, yeah, and I want to make this empty, and you'll understand why in just a moment, because we're going to be playing back the 8-bar sample in its original full full length, full style, you know. So we just need basically one pattern to trigger that, and then we're going to need 7 empty patterns where it doesn't trigger anything. And so that's why I've emptied out 53. We're going to go to 52. We're going to empty out these commands at the bottom by selecting them and deleting them. Then we're going to go, okay, 52, awesome. We're going to now bring in a brand new sampler that has this is the bass. So we're going to put this up to C4, and we're going to put it at its default octave and all of that stuff. We're going to choose the next, we're actually going to go to the next screen and choose another sampler that we can put this on. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I'll choose 9 to put this on. So I'm going to load the bass here, but we're not going to chop it up, okay? We're just going to have the original sample. So if I go back to load, I can go to let's see, packs, and in here we had missed samples, and then in here I've got our loops labeled at the bottom, 116 A minor bass. There it is. There's our sample. All right, the original bass. What we can do, let's see, I can actually call this, give it a name now. So I can call this bass, and we can call it like bass full, for instance, so we know that it's not the chopped up version of the bass. We can just go bass full. Okay, fantastic. And now what we can do is put this in on the downbeat, instrument 8, right? Whoops, I mean instrument 9. All right. Cool. And there's our, okay, fantastic. Now I just want to do that same thing with the rhodes. I want to make an empty, not an empty, but a new, chain of patterns so we can put, something different in, which is going to be our rhodes. So I'm going to hit Shift and Option to select it, and then double tap Edit twice while I'm still holding Shift, and it's now cloned those patterns and phrases into brand new patterns and phrases that I can mess with. We need to do the same thing here, and we need to put in 7 empty patterns and just one pattern that triggers the loop because it's an 8-bar loop. I'm going a little bit quickly now. Sorry if that's confusing. And we're just going to delete all of these things in pattern 63. We can go back to 62. And we need to delete all of these things beneath that downbeat. Whoop, bye. And then all we need to do is, just hold Edit, and we go back up to C4, which is our original octave. Make sure our velocity is at the original octave, and we can select our instrument here if we want to. It's going to be not the bass and full, but rather the next one over. And so this is where we're into hexadecimal mode here. It's instrument number 0A, which is kind of funny. They do a hexadecimal system inside of the mate with like F's and A's and C's in combinations of numbers so that you can get up to 256 using only 2 digits. I don't have the system like memorized yet, but there's always like a shortcut that shows the numbers on the screen. So you don't necessarily need to memorize like hexadecimal numbers to use the unit. I'm thinking the more I use it, that's maybe likely to happen, but we'll see what happens. Cool. So we're going to put in a sampler, and then we go down to load a sample, and we just want to, actually, I can, this might be, hang on. This might be a better way to approach this, actually. If I choose the original sampler here that has the Rhodes on it, I can keep like the effects settings the same for our new sample if I copy this. So if I just copy that instrument and then I go into the blank instrument, I can literally paste that exact instrument here. Like if I wanted to make variations on this instrument or whatever, but I'm going to take, because you have 128 that we can load per project, right? But now we can go ahead and just load this sample up again. It's not chopped, and we have the settings of the effects the same, which is important, I think here. So now in our very first section of clips, it's going to play the sample, the Rhodes and the bass exactly as we sampled them out of the Force. And then in our second row of clips now, when it changes that transition after 8 bars, it's going to start going into the ones that we created from scratch. And let's see what this is actually sounding like. It's not playing the bass. Let's find out why not. What did I do wrong? Instrument 5. No, we want it to be instrument this one. So I think that's fixed it now. But now the Rhodes isn't playing the right instrument. Let me find out why. Instrument number 6. Yeah, I need it to be instrument number, that one, OA. Okay, just changing the instrument numbers that it was triggering there. Again, so we can have any instrument triggering on any step of any track. It gets a little bit hard to remember, but you can definitely get deep in there like that. All right, now we've got our original loops here, and they're just going to go into that variation. Oh, I see, but our original loops were at 1. Oh, that's a really interesting anomaly that I just thought through, though, is that those original loops were at 116 BPM, and we changed down to 115 BPM so that I could use this drum loop a little more easy. So now if I want to bring in those slices at this tempo, it's probably... I would either need to re-slice them up into like 1/8 notes or quarter notes and redo that, or I'm not sure. Let me think about how I want to approach that. If we still want to like try to keep the original in, or if I want to just pass on that. And let me check in with the chat and see if I've been missing anything. Yeah, MV Dirty has just spilled the beans in the chat about there's going to be some more mates available for sale tomorrow morning, Pacific Standard Time at 7 a.m. I'm not gonna say on a live stream that I might be looking to pick up a second one. No, I'm not gonna drop that. I definitely not gonna. I'm gonna keep that to myself. I'm not gonna put that out there. No, for sure. Getting static noise. Uh-oh. How much? And is it so bad that we need to cancel the stream, or is it doable? Because I'm not getting any static on this side. Just let me know if it's, super awful or something. All right. All right, so let me think here. If I chop the original recording up into like quarter notes and then realign that to the grid, I believe we can probably get that in the same tempo. So this might be just a good thing to try. We're only trying to move literally shift 1 BPM per se. I'm going to go ahead and approach this, let's see here, with the Rhodes loop first. But to do that, let me think. We would need what, like 8 individual loops, if I'm not mistaken, to do this. Because we want to play back an 8 bar. So these are all empty, right? So I can go like 63, 64, and then I can just keep going up with these and make them all, because we haven't, there's nothing beyond these in the session yet. So like I'm not overriding other parts or anything. I can just give each of these patterns a new number. Cool. And then if I'm not mistaken, we can go back and we can slice up. This is, OA. Cool. We can put this, we can put this to 16. And if I put this to 16, that's quarter notes on this, if I'm not mistaken. And we can just sort of, Let's find out. D sharp, C. Yeah, it just doesn't. It just doesn't. Okay. Yeah. So there's other ways to do like getting things at different tempos and whatnot. But I'm not super familiar with that workflow yet. So we're gonna pass on that today, so that I don't, you know, turn the stream all sideways. And we're just gonna delete. Whoops. We're just gonna. Oh man, I don't know how to undo. So we're gonna go ahead and load at this time. This is why I'm a chronic oversaver, so that if I do something, you know, incorrect, that we can just reload real fast and go back to where we're at. And that's exactly where we're at here, which is the 1-bar pattern then. Okay, so sorry about that. A little side quest trying to get the original stuff in, but I forgot that we changed the tempo. So I apologize on that. And then it looks like we're back to kind of just working with the new pattern that we created ourselves. Yeah. All right, but we're working in the key of A minor. So let's go ahead and try to bring in another sound real fast. Let's create a pattern 70 on track 7. And if we go into that, we can create, you know, tell it to play pattern 70. And we can just, you know, tell it to play that 1 bar 8 times, so that it, you know, keeps in time with the rest of our patterns for now. I can adjust that if we need to. But here we can grab a new instrument, which we can use that same slot that I was trying to use before to load something into. I can make this a sampler, and we can go into the load. I can go into packs, and I can go into that, let's see here, infinite inspiration, and see if maybe we've got some chords in here in the key of A minor that might be ready to go. I'm not sure if we do or not. I've got a folder of like miscellaneous bonus chords in here. Looks like there's a few in the key of A minor. We might be able to get lucky here. I like that one, and I like that one. So I'm going to load them both. We're going to go ahead and load this one. Then I'm going to go to another instrument, go back to sampler, go back to load, go back to packs, go back to infinite inspiration, go back to miscellaneous chords. There we go. And where's that second A minor? This one here? Yeah. And what let's do is let's, you know, I mean, if you guys have been following my channel for any amount of time, you know I love the dub. Let's see if we can't just dub this out a little bit, right? What we could do is we could, let's see here. I can label these sounds real fast. We can call this second one like dub. We can actually just call this, we can just call this like chord 2, CHD. Whoops. 2, and then we could just call that other one CHD1. And the bonus is that even though there's 2 different sounds here, we can put these on the exact same track, and that's really, really awesome. So we can go ahead and save at this time, make sure that I don't make any mistakes, and if I do, that I can, you know, reload super easily. Let's just play our groove. I think we're going to alternate between like 70 and 71 here. Yeah, so we can get a back and forth kind of thing. Now I just got to figure out where they might sound good. Maybe on the 6. Right there is nice. And then maybe our second chord could, oh, I don't know. Maybe here. Maybe 1 down. Awesome. Down. Maybe still 1 down still? No. Can't just decide if I like it there or here. I think here. Cool. What we can do now is we can go ahead and go into these instruments and give them some effects as well, because we still have that global chorus and delay and reverb. Give them a tiny little bit of chorus. Whoops. Maybe quite a bit of delay and reverb, you know, really dub it up. That sounds pretty cool. And then we could go into our second one and give that a little bit of these as well. I'm not sure that I'm vibing exactly the placement yet. I think what we want basically is we want a back and forth type of a thing to happen here, where in fact I can probably just delete these and copy this whole row out. That's number 70. Then copy this row, paste that row in, and then just put 70 here. Okay, and what we've got now by doing that is we've got like an 8-bar pattern without those extra chords, and then they come in the second, 8 bars. And one of the neat things that I really like about the workflow in the Mate as well is that by default it just sort of plays the patterns and then goes back to the beginning, so it's constantly in like a looping mode. You don't need to set that up like when you're working with it. So here's like our first pattern, which doesn't have those sorry about that. I didn't actually set up a pattern 0, 0, so it doesn't know what that is yet or how long to hold that for. I use 0, 0 as a way to tell the Mate, like, play an empty pattern. We just need to tell it that it needs to play an empty 8-bar pattern. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So play this empty part, 8 times. It's just a way to keep the timing of this track in time with the rest of the tracks, so that it changes when all of the rest of the tracks, change patterns. Yeah, now we're getting some change happening. Just hear those new chords on the speakers real fast. Alright, that's a little bit more even sounding. It's a little bit hard to mix on these headphones sometimes. And basically basically, now that we've got, you know, an actual groove started, and basically all we've been doing is just chopping up and rearranging samples, that's basically what I would do to continue fleshing this out, is I would just start creating different versions of each of these, you know, patterns, so that we have different sections. Then you start, you know, worrying about the arrangement and when these, you know, different sections come in and all that kind of stuff. We could go ahead and like make a variation of the drums real fast by going into like a pattern 11, and you know, which I believe is a blank pattern. We can verify that it is. It's not, you know. So I can go into pattern, you know, the actual pattern itself, and to get a blank one, I can just copy this into the next available blank one. We can go Shift Option and then Edit, clone phrase 11 to phrase 12. And so now I can go in here and I can delete the rest of these notes so that we can create something new in this phrase. Cool. And so we'll, you know, there's nothing else playing now. We're just going to worry about creating a beat for this section here. And maybe we could do like you know, pick which instrument we want to play here. So I'm going to pick the right instrument here. And then we just need to put the right, you know, notes in, starting from C1. We can start messing with those chops by just changing the numbers here. And so I think we could maybe go, maybe is it this one? No, I think it's this one. Yeah, cool. We got where's that? Set on D. So there we've got, you know, something really basic happening with the beat here, but there's not those extra hi-hats that we like, that we had before. So if I start trying to find that, you know, slice where it might just put in a hi-hat, ooh, that's actually sick as hell. But we don't want that to play every single time, so let's give it a chance. You know, maybe like, how about, oh, I don't know, 46% or 40% chance that that extra note will play there. Maybe we'll put in some more hi-hats here. Ooh, there's a good one. And let's do the same with that hi-hat. Let's give it a chance, but let's give it a higher chance than that last one. Maybe like, oh, I don't know, yeah, how about 53% chance that it will play? Maybe we change the pitch on this one as well. So we could, you know, make it a little bit different by bringing it down, oh, I don't know, like -1 or 2 kind of thing. Yeah, I like the way that sounds. Maybe a little bit lower in volume. And let's copy that little hi-hat note there, right? And now I can paste that anywhere I want in this pattern and make some more, you know, hi-hat variations that are going to come in every now and again. Maybe less often than the others. Let's see here. Like 33% chance. So I've got quite a bit of, you know, of these chance effects happening, so that even though this is just a really simple, you know, 1-bar groove at this time, it still plays a little bit differently every time we go through the pattern. What I can do is I can maybe make this just an 8-bar, you know, pattern for now. Tell it to play that 1 bar, you know, 8 times, and we could go ahead and save at this time. We can put our crash back in on the downbeat of this pattern. Why not? So that's number 80. And then over here, we could start maybe coming up with a different version of our bass line that maybe slots in with the drum variation that we've created. Let's see here. This is just a 2-bar pattern, and we want to create like another one. But, you know, its own. So I can clone this one into the first available empty patterns by holding Shift and Option and then hitting Edit twice, cloned chain and phrases. So it's put that to 51 now. So I can put this back to 50 and leave the new one at 51. And here we have a whole section of new phrases for me to work with. I can make these all 52 real fast so that it's easier to work with this 1-bar variation at the beginning to create a new one, because it's just going to cycle through the 1-bar only now for 8 bars. All right, what I want to do is I want to put in a 0 and a 0 here. That way it's going to basically put in an 8-bar rest on the tracks that I just put that 0 on. Now let's say that I want to work on just this one section of patterns and keep this repeating and not go back up to like our beginning section of patterns. I can just copy this. I can hit the Option button, copy the selection, and then if I just paste it in an empty pattern down beneath that isn't touching our other sets of patterns, now when I play this pattern, it won't, loop around. It's only going to play that pattern for me to work on. Actually, we can save at this time as well. And I can go back down, I can press play, and we can start working on this bass line variation now. So we've got a new, idea for the drums here. I want to, pick some bass slices that will sort of accentuate that, hopefully, and kind of wrap around that new bass line. So I'm just going to arbitrarily start picking different slices here. Wait a minute. I'm on the wrong instrument. I need to be on our bass chop. There we go. Getting a little bit of clicks and pops here where I chopped the sample. But I think for the live stream, we're going to go ahead and just not worry about that today. Or I could try to, pick different chops that might not create a little bit of a click. Let's see what we can do. Cool. And let's make that last one with a chance as well, so it doesn't play every single time. All right, and now we want this to be like a back and forth as well, a 52 to 53. So I'm going to go ahead now and copy what we've just created. I'm going to go ahead and go into the selection mode. I'm going to copy this whole pattern here, and I'm going to hit select to copy that selection. We're going to turn this into 53, and every other one 53. Then I'm going to go into this one here, and I'm going to go into select mode, delete what's here, and go ahead and paste in what we want to put there. If I'm not mistaken, no, it didn't do it right. So I'm going to do that again and go copy, and then I'm going to put this into, I see, because I'm going into here, and then I just need to, okay, hold on. I need to delete this before I copy. That's the anomaly. I always forget this. You need to delete before you copy. So delete, and then we can copy. Cool. Go in and selection and option and go back, and it's empty now. Fantastic. And we just paste, whoops, and then we just paste that in. Cool, there we go. So now we've got a 2-bar pattern, but bar 2 is the same as bar 1. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these last notes, and we'll see if we can't fill something in there. There we go. I'm going to leave it. That's a great turnaround pattern for every other time, but I think that's maybe more of a AAAB. So we're going to go AAAB on these 52, 52, 52, and then 53. Cool. So we've got our drums here, our new variation there at an 8-bar pattern. We've got our new bass line there at an 8-bar pattern. And what we can do maybe before we drop these rhodes in is maybe come up with another pattern for the chord chops that we loaded. So we can go Shift, Option, and double tap Edit to create a new chain in phrases. We put that back to 70 where it was originally. I can go down here and make this 71, and maybe we'll say, maybe we'll save at this time as well. Now I can sort of play this groove, and I can change where the chords are happening in these 72 and 73, and these are now new, variations for us. All right. Okay, it's not a chop, Dean, so you need to put it on C4. C4, come on. Oh, I like that. And then we'll put the turnaround right here. Nope, it's one. Is it that one? And now we could either, might be nice to take the pitch on this down so we get a little bit of a variation on this chord rather than just dropping in the second chord. And we can do that by just taking this pitch down to like -2, I believe. Absolutely. Maybe bring the velocity on this down a little less, and then also bring the panning on that little turnaround note. What did I do wrong there? Cool. Let's do a little bit of a panning on this as well, on this one note. If we go, where is that? Here it is, pan. I can go over here and I can make this, I don't know, like pan 25 to the right. And in fact, now that we're panning that note to the right, maybe it'd be cool if we pan our original downbeat chord to the left. So if I go pan on this one, I can pan that maybe like 20 to the left. All right. Now we've got a little bit of a variation happening there. Might be nice if we can, get something happening that's different with the rhodes at this time as well. So let's see here. Our original pattern for the rhodes is 60. And if I go into this slot here, we can see that it's just a 2-bar pattern. So if I make this, see if I grab, I'm already on 60. So if I grab it and hit Option and then select, edit twice while I'm still holding Shift, it's cloned that to a brand new pattern. So it's given us now 2 empty phrases to work with here. And what I can do is literally just go in and pretty much delete all of these notes on both patterns so we can create something new to put here. But we know those were like, new, the first available empty patterns. I hope that's making any sense. Let's go, because the workflow gets a little strange sometimes when you're just cloning those patterns. Okay, now we can see if we can drop in a couple extra chops of the original rhodes in this pattern here. Cool. Take it off the downbeat because we have the other, yeah. On 3, we could maybe start. And this is going to be there. Dope. Let's pan these 2 chords here. Let's pan that one to the left 20, and let's pan this one to the right 20. Whoops, not all that way, huh? Oh, I see. I'm on pan, and we'll pan this to the right 20. Cool. So you can see that I'm using a lot of these effects on the step to like change the pitch or change the chance or now change the panning on these individual steps. Ooh, I kind of like the flam that's happening on this one. That's kind of sassy, actually. I wonder if we could still score a downbeat on the second one. Dun. I'm hearing like, I don't know if it's the root note. Dun, dun. No, nope, you need to go down. Nope, try another one. Nope. Nope. That might be what I'm hearing. Let's hear it in context here. No, it's not the right note. Do we have a start time? I bet we do. Just gotta find it. There it is, start. Almost. Still so close. Almost. I think maybe I'm hearing it on the wrong. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I can bring the velocity on this one down. Alright, and let's go ahead and save at this time, now that we've got that in sort of like aligned a little bit better to the grid by messing with that start time. What we can do here is maybe put these patterns in so we can actually hear them in context with the other patterns that we've created now. Alright. I'm not exactly sure how that will flow, so let's find out. Oh yeah, that is, I'm going to actually pause right there because I'd love to bring that up. MV Dirty suggests if we like the chants that we should check out the synth command, and that is very, very powerful, and I just learned what that is, as a matter of fact. I wonder if we can get that in, that's a great, hey, thanks for suggesting that. I wonder if we can get that in here, as a matter of fact. This is this is a perfect opportunity. All right, seriously, thank you very much, MV Dirty, for that suggestion, because this is the perfect time to show that. All right, fantastic. This is so powerful, this synth command. So this is just a chain of 12. It's just pattern 12 over and over again. It doesn't change at all. But if we go in here, we can use this synth command. Maybe what I can do is these were like extra hi-hats, okay? So we can take these extra hi-hats, I can copy this and I can paste this into like one of these empty slots. But instead of putting a chance on this, we can use the synth command. If I go up here, where is that? There it is, synth, okay? This is like in the Electron Digitact, like how many times through the pattern is this note going to play. So if I have it set on 2, it won't play the first time through the pattern, but it will play the second time through the pattern. And I can do that. We can put in that same note, was it what, F1? So I'm on the wrong instrument is the thing. I'm on instrument number 1, and I just want to put that to 1. Okay, cool. And I can put this on an nth as well and tell this every 2 times through the pattern. So not the first time the pattern plays through, but the second time it plays through. And we could change that number like only the 4th time the pattern plays through. Does it play that note, for example? So that way you can program like turnarounds inside your actual patterns it's themselves without having to use an extra pattern slot every single time you want a variation, because we've only got a total of 255 patterns. So here we've created a pattern variation instead of having to use one of our actual pattern numbers for the variation. I hope that makes sense, and we are going to go ahead and save at this time as well. But now in that second drum pattern, it will be just a couple of extra snares as it plays through that one pattern. Cool, awesome. So let's hear this as it flows and see how we did between these sections, and if we need to like finesse those transitions a little bit better maybe. Okay, already, see, this is what I do when I'm, when I'm creating stuff. If I hear it in my head like something needs to happen here, and like I know what it is, then why bother, continuing to play the track and giving myself a chance to forget? What needs to happen is we need to bring in a clap on that second pattern variation. And we can do that super fast and easy. So let's do that. I don't want it to be there in the very first time the pattern plays through. So I'm just going to put an empty, that 0, 0, meaning it's just going to play an empty 8-bar pattern on track 2. But then when when it kicks into the other variation and our chords come in, it'd be really awesome if we brought in a clap at this time. So we can go ahead and start creating this. We can put in a pattern 20 here. Maybe I'll put it in down there as well, and maybe we'll put it in down there as well, just so if we need to work with just the 1-bar loop, we can. If I see how it's grayed out and not white, at the beginning, that's because there's no pattern in there yet. It's just empty, okay? So I need to tell this what it is. This is going to be pattern 20, and it's going to be, we're working in 8-bar patterns. So I'm just going to have that 1 bar repeat 8 times for now, because it's just going to be a clap, something super simple. What we can do is now we can go over to the instrument window. I can hold Option and scroll through our instruments. I just want to pick like the first available empty instrument here, which says none. We hold Edit and I choose, what instrument I want. I want this sampler, and we want to go ahead and load. Now, if you go into the packs folder, if you have the mate, there will be a folder in your mate that says Electronisounds inside of here. And this is like, I don't know, I think about 800 samples or whatever that I pulled from my various sample packs over the years to make kind of like what I consider to be a factory library inside of the mate. So if you've got the mate, you've got this folder of my sounds. They're included inside of the unit, and they just come with it. So I've got a whole folder of claps here. There's like, I don't know, 64 claps or whatever. We can just play the part and see if any of these claps maybe gel with what we're creating so far. Whoops. There it is. That's perfect. Okay. Just need to make this a C4, because again, so if we don't chop the note, its default plays back its default pitch at C4. The default velocity is 64, so we'll start there and adjust as needed. All right. If I just go down to this pattern here, it won't loop around, and we can just work with these claps. Kind of get gonna pick there it is. I'm going to label our new sampler. I'm going to label that sampler clap. again, the reason why I'm labeling these and why we have to do it twice, it doesn't populate the sample name into the instrument name. And when we're over in these windows here, you know, and we're like writing, let's say we're writing in, oh, I don't know, this pattern here, right? Let me try to get an empty one. Cool, okay. And let's say we're putting in a note, right? But we don't have to go to like the instrument page to choose what instrument we're putting in. We can do it right from the instrument column. We're just going to hold edit, and it puts the name of the instrument up there on the screen, so we can scroll through these. That would be instrument chord 2. That would be an empty instrument. That would be instrument chord 1. That would be empty. Here's this one just says sampler, meaning I haven't given that instrument a name yet. So let's do that. This is our noise crash, and this is just so you can see it, you know, on the screen when you're in that other page, and you don't have to always be like, oh, wait a minute, what did I put on this one, and what did I put on that one? As you know, build more and more robust projects, you're really going to want your instruments labeled. So in this screen here, you can just scroll through the instruments and see what you're putting in, you know, the Rhodes chop, the bass chop, you know, this is another one that's unlabeled. It just says sampler. So I can go in this one. It actually doesn't even have a sample in it. So no worries there. But that's why I'm taking that extra bit of time to always, you know, label the name of the instrument itself. Let's maybe put a little bit of reverb and delay on this clap now. So in the clap, we can go down to these built-in effects, you know, so any instrument you've got can have some of this reverb and delay. I can also put the filter onto a high-pass filter, and I can bring this, like any like super low frequencies that might be hiding out in that clap sample that maybe I can't hear or something. I can get rid of those and mix it a little better using a high-pass filter there. All right, cool. Now we've got this, you know, little bit of a turnaround here, which is pretty nice, to where we have like an original pattern. Then we go into a pattern with the clap, and we add these chords, and then we go into a complete variation of that. Just make sure that I've saved. And now let's go back to trying to hear these patterns back to back and see how they flow. And I'll go ahead and check in with the chat real fast. Hey, thanks very much, Sean. I appreciate that. Thanks, Nils. Hey, thanks for tuning in, Nils. I appreciate it. Here's that big change now. Right on. So I think maybe what we'll do today is create just a little bit of a, you know, flesh out on this pattern change before we actually call it today. The pattern here that basically, I guess, you know, I'm going to call these scenes, okay? Meaning like a scene is basically a collection of patterns, okay? Just like you would work with scene mode inside of Ableton or the Force or something like that. And on this second scene here, what we really need, I think, is we need like a rest before our patterns start to change, and we can, so if I just start affecting this right from the jump, you know, if I just start affecting pattern 10, then it's going to affect what happens, you know, in the very first time that pattern 10 plays, and I don't want that. I want to create now a variation so that I can put in, you know, a little bit of a rest at the end. So I'm just going to hit Shift and Option to get into that select mode, still holding Shift and double tapping Edit, clone to chain and phrases. So now if I affect that, which is now, you know, number 12 there, it's not going to affect the ones above or beneath it. It's its own, you know, entity here. So I can just go into this very end, and I can, you know, leave that downbeat on measure 8, but we can get rid of all that extra stuff, and we can create a rest, a nice pause before we actually go into the next pattern. I'm going to need to do that same thing here with the clap. We're going to need to get that to rest. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to clone it to a new pattern that I can affect without tweaking that, you know, other versions that we've already got in there. So Shift, Option, and double tap Edit, cloned chain and phrases. Cool. All I need to do is I need to make this last one different. So I'm actually going to clone just that last one now. Shift Option, double tapping, edit. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to delete these claps. So all we're having is a rest now, okay, at the end of the 8th bar of that particular pattern. Let's do the same thing. This is our bass, okay? We're going to make a variation of that, bass, these collection of clips. Shift and Option, double tap that. Cloned chain and phrases. Now I can hold Shift and go right in here. I can go into that last one, but I can see that 55 is, playing already above it. So if I affect 55 here, then I'm going to affect 55 there. And I don't want that. So I need to clone this one to a new one. Shift, Option, and double tap edit. And clone to 56 rather. Now I can get in here. And I can do that same thing. I can go into edit mode and I can just delete those notes. I can leave the downbeat and then on measure 7 we have that nice rest. I find that when you do that, if your transitions aren't like flowing, if it sounds like herky-jerky, if it just doesn't sound like it, flows in any way, there's 2 things that I will try to do to make the transitions more smooth. The first thing is I'll try to take a little bit of a pause before we actually go into the transition. So like a nice downbeat, 2, 3, 4, as we're kind of trailing off, and then slam into that new section. It sort of gives the listener's ears like a chance to kind of cleanse the palate and get ready for something new to come in. Whereas if you're just, constantly, giving them that, wall of audio and then it just changes, it can be a little bit jarring. And really, you want your listener to follow along and to understand like where those changes are coming and feel the ebb and flow of the tracks you're making, like right from the first listen. You don't want the ebb and flow to be confusing for that listener like at all. You really want to direct them, where you're going. Okay, we're going into a new section now. That ebb in that flow, and that's what we're working with by creating little pauses like this, those little dramatic pieces of tension that help with the transitions. So same here, we have our original Rhodes playing, we just need to create a pause. So I'm going to clone this chain, Shift Option, and double tap edit. Now it's cloned that to a new one. Here, I've got at the end 65, but that's playing up at the top. So if I go in there and I mess with that, it's going to mess with the ones at the top. So we'll need to clone that as well. Option and Shift. So cloned phrase 65 to 66. Cool. I can go in here. I can just delete all these notes in the second half and I can just get rid of them. Now we've got a pause on our drums, a pause on our clap, a pause on our bass, and a pause on our Rhodes happening before the pattern change happens here. We're probably going to need to do that exact same thing here with the chords as well, because if I go in, nope, we don't. There's nothing actually playing in that window. So that's going to pause for us by default. All right, now what I'm going to do, we'll go ahead and save, is I'm going to just play the song again from the beginning. We'll hear after our first 8 bars, we're going to go into our second 8-bar pattern, which adds the clap. And then at the end of these 8 bars, there should be a rest. So when we go into our third, set of patterns here, it should really hit the ebb and flow this time. Let's find out. Thanks for tuning in, Les. Enjoy your lunch, MV Dirty. Hey, what's happening? Audible video back in the chat. So we get that pause that lets the listener just breathe between those patterns. This is starting to work. All right. Yeah, I definitely want a pause on the Rhodes on this very first one. So maybe what I can do is actually play 63 twice, and we could pause the Rhodes twice, but not pause the bass the first time through. Let's see how that sounds. There we go. We could even bring a ride in with that clap, I think, if we wanted to. Might need to do a few variations on the clap pattern itself. And pause. All right. Well, I think this is sounding pretty fantastic so far. And all things considered, considering that we put this together on a live stream, I'd say it's sounding even, that much better. Because sometimes it gets a little bit intense doing all this stuff live, if you get my drift. I think we are going to go ahead and start wrapping it up. It's been about 2 hours and 45 minutes of pretty hardcore working with the mate today. I hope you guys have seen just how amazing and how powerful this can be. The bonus here, is that I could, well, I guess I'm not going to do it because it's going to, yank the stream or whatever. But, at this point, we could even unplug it and then just start walking around with it, We could plug in our earbuds to it, go to the park, We've got something in it that sounds decent to work with. So we could even start messing around with just, working with the arrangement, sitting on the couch, playing with the cats and, tweaking that's really, where it really shines for me is that, when I'm working with pretty much whatever in here, this is the final step. You've got everything laid out on the table, and, if you move anything, there goes your setup. But that's just the bonus, is you can literally just grab this and go at this point. It doesn't even need an external battery. It's just you got a battery in it, you're just ready to go. It charges up super quick, with the USB battery. So if you guys have any questions on like what we did today, or the mate in general, or music production in general, now would be an awesome time to get those into the chat before we wrap it up. I'm just going to give you guys a chance to say goodbye to each other in the chat, ask any last minute questions, let you know one more time that I really appreciate everyone hanging out with me on these live streams. Yeah, right on. Hey, thanks, Sean. Thanks, Audible Video. All right. Oh, yeah, and happy Halloween, everybody. Stay safe. If you're going out there tonight, stay safe. It's still crazy out there. I'm in Los Angeles, basically. I'm like in the valley. It's pretty crazy here. We're going to be just staying home with our pets tonight, if you get my drift. Not really going out and partying kind of guy these days. But yeah, I really like the way that this is shaping up. This is probably something, that I'll take the time to go through and make a finished track out of. Just keep fleshing it out, adding more stuff, creating more pattern variations, because I really like the way that this is coming together. I just think this is awesome. I mean, I'm not really I don't really get out of the house all that much. This is pretty much what I do. I spend as much time as I can in here. But for especially someone who's going to school, or doing a bus commute to work, or doing a bus commute to school, or just has a lot of, free time, this is an amazing, amazing and easy to use music making tool. I love the fact that it has the ability to render the audio directly out from it. So you don't need to record it out. You can just literally go, hey, I want to record, the whole song now, and it'll just record that to audio. Or you can record it to individual track stems and then give those to someone else to load up into Ableton and remix or whatever. If you have a friend who's got the mate, you can bundle all of the samples into one, location. Then you can send the project file over to someone else with the mate, and they can load it up as well. I haven't actually done that yet, but it's supposed to be available. Hey, thanks, Tony. Cool. All right. Thanks very much, Big John UK. All right. So we are going to go ahead and call it. Hey, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate you guys being here. I guess if we're calling it, then I should probably stop drinking coffee. So until next time, take care of each other, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out on these streams, you guys. I'm going over here to turn the stream off. That's usually where the computer is, but I'm over here today. All right, so take care of each other, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for watching.